you going into that surgery with muscle mass and strength is so important for your recovery. So that is key number one, because I meet too many people who are like, oh, and I can't move and I'm depressed and I don't want to do this and I'm not going to, I'll exercise after the surgery. And that's a big mistake. So you're missing an opportunity, as you can still build muscle with very limited mobility. And so I think it's really important to increase your protein intake before you're going into a surgery, or, at any time. It's always usually, if most of us don't have enough protein, but I've doubled it when I was going into my surgery and after the surgery too, because you not only need to feed the muscle, but you need to grow the tissues and the ligaments and everything that's been cut during this process, that it is very important to get your protein in, or essential amino acid.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey, friend. Welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm Jenn Trepeck, your host and health coach, here with you every week for Wellness Without the Weirdness. And if there's one thing I know about this community, it's that we love our routines and we lead very full lives. So when we're down for the count, right, for whatever reason, we want to recover fast. And May is Osteoporosis Awareness and Prevention Month, which is fitting for today's episode. So today we're going to talk about how to supercharge recovery, and we have the perfect expert to help us. She is a gerontologist and biohacker dedicated to challenging menopause stigma and ageist stereotypes. As the dynamic host of the Hack My Age podcast, she focuses on empowering women navigating the menopausal transition through biohacking techniques and information from forward-thinking experts. At 54 years old, she embodies the essence of a digital nomad and serves as a passionate menopause educator. She is the visionary behind hackmyage.com and the author of The Longevity Master Plan and cookbook, Eating for Longevity, offering invaluable resources and programs for women in peri and post-menopause. Her commitment to normalizing menopause conversations is evident through her creation of the support group and community Biohacking Menopause. She completed the Institute of Biomedicine's Menopause Method Training, Dr. Stacy Sims' Menopause for Athletes course, and is an active member of esteemed organizations such as the Gerontologist Society of America, the Aging Society of America, the British Menopause Society, and the European Menopause and Andropause Society. With a master's degree in gerontology from the prestigious University of Southern California, her expertise extends to sports nutrition coaching and oxygen advantage breathing instruction, further enriching her holistic approach to women's wellness. Please help me welcome Zora Benhamou.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, and we're going to disrupt some ageist stereotypes, right?
I love it. It's nice to chat with you again, too. So for everybody listening, when you finish here, pop over to the Hack My Age podcast and listen to our conversation over there. I think you'll like it. We talked about some controversial things potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yes, no, it's a good one. It's a good one. You're going to love it.
Yeah. And Zora, we'll start with your story of 2 hip replacements and then go from there. Super quick. I just have to tell our members what they're getting this week. So members, your recipe this week is for baked or grilled honey mustard chicken. So we're into grilling season. This is a great one. Plus, you're making your own honey mustard. And I think it shows us how easy it can be to give boring chicken new life and tons of flavor. So if you want this recipe, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries for just $10 a month. You get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It's a total deal when you take advantage of the full offerings. You save far more than that $10 cost. It's a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, being a member supports this podcast and this community so we can continue to bring you new episodes and experts every week. So remember, all you're going to do is go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the episode notes because that's a lot easier. Once you're there, you click support now, enter your email and payment info, click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipe for the baked or grilled honey mustard chicken. Okay, Zora. So your bio is more focused on the menopause side of your work, but as a gerontologist and a biohacker, you've also developed a bit of an expertise in both prevention and healing. So will you tell us your story about your 2 hip replacements?
I know it sounds crazy. I'm only 54. And to say I've already had 2 hip replacements is insane. And I had them both done within 3 months. So I got a lot of training and experimentation on how to prepare for surgeries, what to bring to the hospital, and how to recover real quickly. And being in the biohacking space and having this incredible podcast and access to amazing regenerative medicine doctors, I have had the most incredible team behind me. And I just have to share this information. Now, just to put things into perspective in terms of what happened to me, I had osteoarthritis, which is different than osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is that bone density, it's the strength of your bones. And my bones are awesome. Like they're really, really strong. But osteoarthritis, it's a degenerative joint disease. So that's when that cartilage around the joints, whether it's your knees or your hips, it starts to wear down over time. And so you've got pain, you got stiffness, you lose your range of motion, mobility, swelling. It's a horrible thing to live through. And it starts out with a little like, a little pain. Maybe it's menopause, and definitely joint issues. Very, very common menopause symptom. But my hacks, I was actually for years using a lot of great hacks, from platelet-rich plasma injections and hyaluronic acid, and just on course moving as much as I possibly could within my limitations. But over time, my hacks just didn't work anymore. And it was getting worse and worse. And interestingly, it coincided with menopause. Menopause accelerates this disease, right? And when you go through menopause, right, you're losing your hormones. So this is part of the process. And there are 12 risk factors for osteoarthritis, which I can explain to you a little bit later, but it happens very often with women more than men. Men also get osteoarthritis, but women, are especially experiencing this a little bit more. And there's about 6-7% of the people in the world who are dealing with osteoarthritis. And it's just really painful. And you feel really old. Suddenly, you start limping. You can't stand up without putting your hands on the desk. You feel, I hate to say, it's just you feel old, right? You feel there's something not right. And so what happened to me, so the 12 risk factors I've had 9 of them. And some of them are age, right? Age happens, but it doesn't really happen to people in their 50s. And I started experiencing the worst part of it when I was 52. Being a woman, so your gender is also more likely, is another risk factor, your genes. I had the genes that predisposed me to this. Joint injury. I'm very athletic, so of course, you have some injuries and things that just don't quite recover as you'd like them to. Bone deformities, you can have nutritional deficiencies like low vitamin C and D, hormones, of course, menopause. And then there's things like obesity, which wasn't my case, certain occupations, and then smoking. And these also weren't my cases, but I did have quite a few of these already. So probably I was just kind of set up for some of these things. And so over time, you realize that you just move less and less and less until you just can't even walk anymore. And that's when I said, well, really need to go see a doctor and deal with this and probably get a hip replacement. And so I got not only 1, but 2. So I really I'm happy to discuss this, because I feel that when you first are diagnosed with something like this and a doctor tells you, hey, you probably need surgery when you're in your 50s, I even met women in their 40s and even 30s who are going in for surgery, you feel like you're put in a category that is reserved for people in their 70s, because I don't know anybody who's had, at least at the time, who's had hip surgery, right, other than, people's parents or grandparents. And when I found out through, discussing and in my podcast, as well as in my social media, I'm very transparent. I always talked about this because I was biohacking my way through it, realized that there are a lot of women out there who are younger, who are dealing with the same thing or have had the surgeries. And so then you feel less alone. You feel like, okay, there's another camp to this. This is not just because you're obese, or because when you go Google online, what can I do for osteoarthritis? It's lose weight. And that was certainly not my case. And I did not want to lose any more weight. So you do feel like finally you find your camp and your people. And this is why I'm so happy that I'm able to talk to this. Yeah. And I'd love to not only say, look, it happens even when you're doing everything right. And I have so many people who've told me, Zora, how come this has happened to you, who quote unquote does everything right in terms of the nutrition and the sleep and the stress management and the exercise? And you feel like, yeah, it just happens. And it's because of some of those risk factors. I think it's to a point where you need quality of life. You need your life back. And so I decided, okay, I'm just going to go in for this surgery, bang it out, recover, and then get the other one done. And I have some great surgery hacks for anyone's getting a mastectomy, hysterectomy, a knee surgery, hip replacement, whatever it is. I think these are really, really valuable tools to keep in mind before you're going into surgery. It doesn't have to be hip surgery. It can be any kind of surgery. And I'm going to share some of those hacks with you.
Yeah, so I want to ask you about those. But really quick, you delayed the procedure, right? And so talk to us a little bit about the choice of when to go. So one of the things I heard you say is like, you're basically getting to the point where it's really removing movement from your life. It's really hindering quality of life. And so I'm curious to help people kind of understand when they want to delay it and when they want to say, now is the time.
Yeah, I think it's a very personal choice. And you have most doctors would say, delay until you can't walk anymore. And I'm not sure if I agree with that, because what happens is when you are restricted with movement and you can't ride a bike anymore, or you can't go with your friends on a walk anymore, you can't go travel with your family anymore, then you start to have, I guess, emotional issues or mental issues. You feel depressed, you feel upset. It's just like that loneliness factor. When you are lonely, it's like smoking 17 cigarettes. It's the effect on the body. It's this cascade of cortisol, and it's horrible. And as positive as I'm a very positive mindset. It's really, really hard. You can't have sex anymore because you can't open your legs. You're really restricted. It affects your relationships. It affects everything. So I think waiting too long, and I noticed that when my mind started to get in that space, I was like, okay, this is way more than just the physical, my hips. This is going to affect everything. And I don't want to pay a heavier price than the surgery. That being said, I think everybody has their own timeline. I was in the biohacking space, or I am in the biohacking space. And I'm like, I'm going to hack this. And I've been able to do it for a long time. But there's a point where I said, I need to sort of exhaust all my resources and all my things. I need to try everything, because when it was first proposed to me about a year before I actually got the surgery, I wasn't in the right mindset. I felt like I still got to try stem cells, or I still have to try these things because maybe. And so if I went into a surgery not ready and start with doubt and fear, I think it would have backfired. And that's just me. But I've had plenty of people I've spoken to says, look, why did you, I would have gone like way earlier. And they're in that different mindset. So I think it's a really personal thing, what it is that you need to do before you actually go in. But I think once you make that decision to get the surgery, it's got to be all positive. Like, look at all the wonderful things that are going to happen post-surgery.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that you're pointing out there, right? That whole mind-body connection, not only of, I'm ready to do it, but also in the, if I do this and I have doubts, what that can do, because placebo, nocebo, all of those things are so real. And then one more question before we get to, sort of the pre-procedure, hacks and options. We interviewed, I think it was December of 23, maybe, interviewed Dr. John Neustadt about osteoporosis. And one of the things he talked about is that if you have osteoporosis and you break a hip, there's a 35% chance of death within a year and an increased chance of death for 10 years following the injury. Can you speak a little bit to this idea of joint replacement versus, injury from osteoporosis and, kind of understanding those distinctions and choosing?
Well, osteoporosis is something you can clearly reverse. There's no doubt. I think most people would say, okay, we can do that. Osteoarthritis, most doctors would say you cannot, with the exception of one, which I followed. And I still believe that it is a possibility if you catch it early enough. I don't think in my case, but most doctors would say that. So I think you have a greater chance of reversing osteoporosis. So you don't have a hip fracture, you don't fall, and you can also practice fall prevention and get your nutrition right and do all the other things. There's so many things we can do to reverse osteoporosis. It's not unusual. Osteoarthritis, again, is a different story. So I think better to prevent. And I think one of the big things that anyone who's listening now, no matter what age you are, is go and test your bone density. There's DEXA scans, there's REMS scans, which is REMS, and there's different types. You can gotta know where that is, and then just test every year, watch that trend. And if you see it's trending down and you're getting into osteopenia, which is the stage before osteoporosis, then you've really got to take your health into your hands. And I'm a big fan of the REM scan because it not only tells you about your bone density, but it tells you about your bone strength. Because you can have bones that are not very dense, but they're strong and they will not break. They're more flexible, right? We don't want to have a stiff bone that will break when you fall. You want a little bit of that flexibility there. So if you've been scared because you've had a DEXA scan and you're osteopenic, then go and get a REM scan. And then you may see, because you can live with osteoporosis and not break your bones.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So let's talk. Recovery starts before the procedure. Walk us through it.
Okay. Well, get that mental hat on, right? First, you're going to be very as positive you can. You're going to go into that. And don't have a doubt. Honestly, try. You made your decision. You found the right doctor. You're going to do this. Now, I would highly encourage people to continue exercising, and with as limited mobility as I know you may have, because it's your knee or your hip or your arm, whatever it is, your shoulder, please go find the rehab exercises that you need to do, whether it's with a trainer or you go and find some YouTube videos. Work within your limitations. You have choice. And because you going into that surgery with muscle mass and strength is so important for your recovery. So that is key number one, because I meet too many people who are like, oh, and I can't move and I'm depressed and I don't want to do this and I'm not going to, I'll exercise after the surgery. And that's a big mistake. So you're missing an opportunity, as you can still build muscle with very limited mobility. Of course, you have your rehab exercises. I'm a big fan of blood flow restriction bands, or of targeted compression, or of katsu bands. This is where you kind of restrict or partially restrict the blood flow into a limb like your arm or your legs, and that helps activate growth hormone. And so it's been a lifesaver for me. I was using the katsu bands, but there's a lot of research on blood flow restriction in general. You can go check it out on PubMed. With very limited mobility, even just laying down, you can help you maintain your muscle mass. So that's one thing. Have you heard of blood flow restriction, or is this something totally new?
No, I know of it more because my mom had a hip replacement. And so following that, there's like whatever they're called, you strap them onto your legs and they sort of vibrate and compress and decompress to keep blood flowing, even though you're just sitting.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, please, everyone go check this out if you're going to get a surgery. It's just unbelievable. So that's been a big lifesaver for me. And that helps with the recovery. Now, the nutrition, right?
Wait, by the way, isn't even yin yoga somewhat to that idea where you're holding a position and sometimes there's like a restriction of blood flow and then you come out of the position and it rushes back to the area?
Well, that definitely I could see, because originally the katsu bands, that's just the brand name for this thing, one of these bands. But as I understand, the original, the creator of this was actually, it's a Japanese person who was in a temple sitting on his knees, and he noticed that after sitting for, I don't know, 45 minutes or so, he got up and his legs were all pumped up. And that's sort of how he discovered this in the 60s, a long time ago. This is nothing new.
Yeah.
But I can see very much on yoga also having this same concept where you're activating that growth hormone, and that's what helps grow muscle. So please do that. But with the nutrition piece, right, we cannot grow muscle if we don't eat or we don't feed it protein, right? You need to feed the muscles for them to grow. And so I think it's really important to increase your protein intake before you're going into a surgery, or at any time. It's always usually, if most of us don't have enough protein, but I've doubled it when I was going into my surgery and after the surgery too, because you not only need to feed the muscle, but you need to grow the tissues and the ligaments and everything that's been cut during this process. That it is very important to get your protein in, or essential amino acids. So if you were to supplement, because sometimes it's really hard to get into all this protein. So eat your protein, but I was also supplementing with essential amino acids, a powder, or you can have a supplement or a pill, whatever it is, but get that in. That's super, super important. And then of course your vegetables or your fruit and your real foods. I mean, this is a great time to clean up the diet and get rid of some of these processed foods that are inflammatory, because if you have osteoarthritis or some issue in your knee or your shoulder, it's likely got a ton of inflammation there. So you want to get rid of that. Do not add fuel to the fire. So really, really take your health seriously and get that diet good. So couple of the other supplements that I added, I thought were really, really key, were also whey protein powder was also good. Creatine, monohydrate, collagen. Again, all of these are super important for the ligaments. I don't know if you've heard of urolithin A, but this is really good for muscle strength and recovery and lower inflammation. And that's been a really key supplement for me. And then, of course, bone supplements that there's a ton of them sold on the market, but something that's got calcium, magnesium, vitamin D, D3 and K2, boron, some good minerals. These are things that help rebuild the bone, because with me, in my case, I literally, you cut off the head of the femur and they hammer in this implant, and my bone needs to grow around this implant. So I need growth for this bone. And that's why some of these bone supplements are really, really good. In addition to, of course, the healthy diet and lifestyle. Is there any other, I mean, you're the nutritionist here too. It's probably a couple of things that you'd like to add into that mix.
No, I love your combination. And I think an important thing for people to realize is that I think a big contributor to all of this is insufficient nutrition for decades. Because when our body is not getting all the nutrients it needs to do the functions, it will pull it from our bones. It's going to pull those minerals out of our bones in order to survive. And so to some degree, this experience of what's now happening later in life in our bones is a consequence to some degree of the poor nutrition throughout life. And so to recognize that to get those nutrients to the bones at this point requires a greater level of commitment to those choices.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I knew you'd have a good one to add in there. It's so true. So true. Yeah. But on the topic of supplements, there's an interesting hack. If anybody's getting surgery, you're probably going to get an X-ray of some kind. And there's some radiation there that maybe you go, well, let's offset that a little bit if we can. And you can. So there's this, I interviewed Dr. Jenn Simmons. I don't know if you've had her on your podcast before. She's a breast surgeon, and she's brilliant. I'll connect you because she's just got, she's wonderful. And so she gave me this hack, and I thought, wow, I'm going to be using this. And I use it for any kind of x-rays, whether it's your teeth or it's a DEXA scan, or I'm going in to look at my bones. This is something that is so simple. So you want 2 to 4 grams of liposomal vitamin C about an hour before the procedure, and then 3 days after. And it sounds like a little higher dose than normal. Yes. And then you add.
Yeah, but it's a finite period of time.
Yeah.
So,
it's It's very short term. And then the same thing, you get an 100 milligrams of melatonin an hour before the x-ray as well, and 3 days after. And that's, people go, whoa, I'm going to pass out with that, because normally people take about 0.3 milligrams up to 3 milligrams. Don't worry, you're not going to pass out. This is an antioxidant, and it's really a great antioxidant, and it's not only for sleep. And I've done this many times already, and I've not even felt one bit tired. And if you're worried about it, you can test it out, before, a couple days before, something like that, just to see how you feel.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah. And then Dr. Jenn, I said the same thing. I said, oh my God, I'm going to pass out. And she said, don't worry, you're not going to. And that's been my experience. And the other thing you want to add into that mix is liposomal glutathione, about 100 milligrams the day before, the day of, and then 3 days after. And I like this one by Quicksilver. It's just this little pump and a little liquid under my tongue. And it's just, I think it's 2 pumps or something. It's so much easier than popping a bunch of pills. And then there's the vitamin D3 K2. And again, it's quite high dose, 20,000 IUs the day before. Then before 3 p.m., because I think there's a part, I think it may make you feel alert. So so you take it the day of, and then 3 days after. I think those are the all of them. I hope I got all of them. But, I have it on my website if anybody wants to get the whole thing and just reach out to me. But I thought it was such a great hack. Great for mammograms as well. Anything that has radiation. Right. Some people, she even recommends it for people who are traveling and getting on a plane and exposed to some radiation there.
Amazing.
Crazy. Huh?
All right. So, yeah, I love this. All right. So I want to shift into the recovery piece, supercharging that recovery. But let's pause here to highlight our partner for this episode. Big thanks to Lumiere de Vie Skincare for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries. Lumiere de Vie Skincare was founded by Amber Reidinger McLaughlin in response to her own experience of mere marginal results from countless costly creams. She realized the revitalization of her youthful skin could only occur if she developed products herself. Working closely with beauty scientists and exploring the most advanced ingredients derived from the earth and sea, Amber created Lumiere de Vie, the next generation of skincare. The extensive line of luxury skincare products is designed to address all skin types and concerns, with the highest quality natural ingredients and powerful formulas that help heal, soothe, moisturize, and protect. Lumiere de Vie acts as first aid for your skin. The result is rejuvenated, luminous, beautiful-looking skin. So today's episode certainly falls into the category of aging well. And I think Lumiere de Vie is absolutely a piece of my personal aging well puzzle. I love their needle-free serum. I've been using it for far longer than I've had this podcast. The needle-free serum is $99.95, so it's a little pricier, but much less costly than Botox and provides a quick tightening effect for taut-looking skin. I also love the intensive hand and body cream. I've said this before, but I get compliments on how soft my skin is. Like, I was wearing a sleeveless top the other day and my friend was like, what's this lotion you're using? So anyway, that one's just $34.25. These prices are all before your 10% off and free shipping for being a Salad with a Side of Fries listener. So simply text the word SKIN, S-K-I-N, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word SKIN, S-K-I-N, to 844-947-4846 to try Lumiere de Vie Skincare. Get 10% off and free shipping. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Okay, Zora, talk us through recovery, and maybe the place to start is like foundations of recovery and healing.
Yes. And I also want to mention, we didn't talk about the sleep and the stress piece before an operation, but that's okay. Yeah. We won't do that. I've got it all in a whole other podcast episode. If anybody wants to go listen to that whole thing, because I could go on forever. So I just want to make sure you just focus on that.
The sleep and the stress after and before.
Yes.
Critical. Yeah.
Absolutely. So don't ignore that piece. You know what to do. Now, in terms of recovery, our job is to reduce inflammation. We want to preserve and keep building the muscle and the tissue and our bone, and then detox, because we probably had a lot of medication and antibiotics and things running through our body. So the first thing that you'll probably do is usually after a surgery, the doctors usually want you to move around a bit, get some blood flow, get blood circulation. Some surgeries say you put on some ice, reduce that inflammation as well. Inflammation is necessary, right? We want to have some for rebuilding and recovery, but
healing.
Yeah, healing, but we want it to go away after a certain amount of time. And so red light therapy has been pretty cool for me. I like these little devices that you can put on the body part, for example. That helps. That was something I did every single day. Elevation of the legs or maybe the body part also as well. And then you need a lot of patience. A lot of patience. That's going to be really hard, but that helps a lot. But when it comes to, let's say, quick supplementation, you kind of want to have those supplements that I mentioned before. And before your surgery, I didn't mention, I think doctors often like you to stop your omegas. That's probably taking that out. Blood thinners, we can bring that back in post surgery. But anything that's got like turmeric, great anti-inflammatory, NAC, which is N-acetylcysteine. And then if you want to detox, things like chlorella, glutathione, binders, bentonite clay, zeolites, these kinds of things. There's so much stuff online. I'm sure you also have done some great podcasts on detoxing and supplements. Those are great. That's now a good time to get that in, but it'd be good to walk through it with a professional who can give you exactly what you need. But when it comes to sort of the advanced biohacks, I had some really cool doctors give me some things. Some things I could do, and some things I just couldn't get access to because I'm in Spain. But the two things that worked really, really well for me were peptides, the BPC 157 and one called TB 500, but it's also known as thymosin beta 4. So these are great peptides that really help with healing and recovery. It brings angiogenesis. It helps build tissue. It helps repair, lowers inflammation. BPC 157, and I'm talking about peptides that are in injectables. I mean, some of these peptides come as sublingual or as a supplement, but when you're getting a major surgery like I was, and believe me, I tried talking my way out of injecting myself. I do not like doing this stuff. But I had two chances to two surgeries where I tested them out. The first one I tested it out with just the BPC 157, and then the second one I did the BPC 157 plus the TB 500, and my recovery was supercharged. So, and doctors very often, or these regenerative medicine doctors, would recommend these two together, and sometimes they sell them together in one little bottle, and you inject every morning. Some people do it twice a day. Your doctor, or whoever is guiding you through these peptides will tell you what you need for your thing. Don't go and buy this stuff online. Start injecting yourself, please. Yeah, do this I had the guidance. I have some great recommendations if you need help in telling where you can go and get some guidance on this. But these were really, really key for my recovery. And they're really, when you talk to these experts, there are certain peptides that are like, okay, very short term and so I'll tell you in just a moment some of the things, but these two, they're pretty much like, they feel so safe with them. They're like, you can go on for a long time with these things. It's pretty good. It's so helpful for many other reasons. The other one that was recommended to me, I couldn't get a hold of this, but this was nandrolone decant. And this is a steroid which gets a bad rap, but when you do it in low dosages and very short period of time, it really helps with muscle and muscle recovery. But I would have gotten that, and that's an injectable as well, but I just couldn't get a hold of it in Spain. But something to look into. And then there's one other one that I think that is worth attention, and it's methylene blue. And you've heard of methylene, but you did a whole podcast on it.
Yeah, well, we did a little bite-sized bonus episode, Nutrition Nugget, on it. But please share your experience.
Yeah, so first of all, go and listen to that podcast that you did, because that was a great podcast. And you explained it really well, that it was a textile dye, and then it became a cure for infectious diseases. And it's been around since I don't know, like the 1800s or something. It's one of the very first drugs that ever occurred and that ever was created. And so when I first saw it, it's a blue. It's like literally blue
It
dye.
is potent.
It's
Yeah.
very potent. So I was hoping that it was coming blue from chlorella or something natural, and just completely synthetic. But they still use it in hospitals for like I think it's cyanide poisoning, and it's a great antidote. And so this is the kind of thing you can buy online. But again, I think you should get the guidance of how from a professional who can tell you exactly your dosage and how long to do it. But I was taking it, and there's many different ways to take it. I was taking it just as liquid, just on the back of my tongue. I can handle that. That was much easier than injecting. And this helps improve mitochondrial functioning. It's an antifungal and antiviral. I mean, I was in a hospital, so there's plenty of viruses going on. I thought this is going to help protect me a little bit. So this is just one of those another very simple hacks. A lot of people who take methylene blue feel more energy. There are contraindications as well. People who are on SSRIs, for example, and you want to do the research first before you start playing around with this stuff. But that was another part of my healing and my recovery that I thought was really quite beneficial. So those were my little extra biohacks that I think kind of next level that you can look into. And then I've got a whole other biohacks for scars and tissue healing.
So I want to ask you about the scars in a second. I think one of the other things that I see a lot post any kind of procedure, because of the meds, because of the lack of activity, because of a whole variety of things, people often are not hungry, but we need nutrients to heal.
Yes.
So what do you recommend as far as, even in your experience, not just on the supplementation front, which we can certainly talk about, but also some key nutrients to focus on when we're not that hungry, but we know we need these things?
Yes, exactly. It's post-surgery. You very often, maybe some people feel nauseous. They don't feel like eating. And this is kind of like such an important time to get the nutrients in. So you have two different camps. I mean, you have some people say, you know what, if I'm not hungry, my body's telling me don't eat, and I won't eat for 24 hours or something like that. And then you have other people who say, no, I think we should at least try to get something in. And I was in that camp. Like I wasn't nauseous, but I wasn't hungry. So I was focusing on drinking my essential amino acids, getting my chlorella. I use these little tablets called energy bits, and it's because it tastes.
We've interviewed Catherine Arnston, so everybody can go back to that. There's a coupon code in there too.
Yes, they're great. I was so happy to have those. I had the chlorella and the spirulina. So the spirulina was like my nutrients. I knew that I was giving a whole bowl of vegetables, antioxidants, just popping in. It's so much easier than, it just tastes like garbage when you have it as a powder and putting it into a smoothie or something. It ruins it. So I just love those little bits. So I was popping that like there was no tomorrow. And then bone broth was another thing I thought was quite easy to digest. And your just soup was totally able to handle that. And that's going to help with the collagen and again, for a lot of regeneration and help with the gut. Again, your gut is taking a big hit with the surgery. So I think those are some key things to get in. Again, protein, got to jack up the protein in there as well. And so once you start getting your hunger back, so if you might want to start with some smoothies or like the essential amino acids, I was just taking it as a powder and drinking it. I was trying to hydrate and get all this stuff out of me too, right? So you want to flush all this stuff out, and then of course when you are hungry, then you may want to get in some real food. And again, it's the same thing as the pre-surgery. You just got to get into these antioxidants in there, anti-inflammatory foods, clean up. You do not need all this garbage that oftentimes, unfortunately, hospitals give. I was lucky in Spain. We don't have those things. I just got fresh grilled fish and a side of steamed vegetables and piece of fruit.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was fabulous. I was there for 4 days. And I know in the US with people who get hip surgeries.
They're like in and out.
Yeah, they're in and out. For me.
They shove you out the door. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are really, really essential. Yeah. And I think it's really the protein, collagen, anything, these kinds of things that are key for healing and anti-inflammatory foods.
Perfect. All right, scarring.
Scarring. Okay. Loads of stuff that we can do. And I'm still working on this. My last surgery was just about 4 months ago. And the first thing I did, like a lot of people just recommend rosehip oil, and that's easy to find. It's not expensive. You just rub it in, and I spent time massaging. So massage and massage therapy or manual therapy is really, really good. But I was doing 5 minutes a day, and I still do. It's not quite 5 minutes anymore, but in the beginning it was about 5 minutes a day. Just keep rubbing that on the scar. Now, the next thing that I think has been a game changer, because I had two scars. I did the first 3 months, I didn't have this product. And then the second month I did. Sorry, the second scar, I had it. So I compare the two scars side by side, and I was using a peptide called GHKCU, and it's a copper peptide. So it's blue. It looks like a little bit like methylene blue, but it doesn't stain or anything like that. You just rub this on, and again, this is more about improving the collagen and in cellular turnover, and it's just a fabulous product for skin, just skin health. I mean, I'm obviously put it on my face and everything, but for scars in particular, it's another thing that was recommended to me to get, and I was able to, because I didn't get a hold of it with the first scar, but then I got it for the second scar. Yeah. And you could see that the texture is better. It's more even, it's more smooth. And now I'm just putting them on both scars, because you don't have to you can use copper peptides on old scars as well to help improve.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, how late is almost too late when it comes to the topical for the scars?
That's a good question. I think I did a podcast interview on copper peptides. I have a feeling she would have said it's never too late.
Never, yeah.
It's better to do it, but I don't have that experiment, and I don't have the research on how much that would have actually reversed. But I know I did a great episode on scars and this is like years ago. And I think that the microneedling can help a lot with old scars. And if you have one of these, you can either go to a professional and get it a salon or a place that will do microneedling, or what I'm doing actually is the DermaStamp. You have derma rollers, but I prefer DermaStamp, and that's making these little holes in like mini mini holes, and I do it for my face anyways. But it's like a micro trauma to activate the skin to start building itself again. So it's it's again not expensive. You can do this. Just be careful if you are doing it on your face, and make sure you, because I've had people doing derma rollers, which I don't like the derma rollers, and if the needle is a little bent, you can cause more damage. So at your own risk, kind of a thing. But that's something that's been recommended for old scars as well. And I think when you do old scars, it's like I just throw the kitchen sink at it at least with the new scars or the old scars. You never know. I think it's really, really, there are things out there. The other thing that I tried was, and I still am again doing all of this stuff, is silicone tape. You find all this stuff simple again online on Amazon. And it's you wear it, you have to build up to it. You wear it for a couple of hours, then you wear it for half a day, then you can wear it for 24 hours, you throw it away. And the second thing, there's another tape that you can buy. And the one it's a mechanical, actually it uses pressure. It's not like it has some fabulous ingredient in it, or it's like silicone. The one, I don't know the brand names, but they do have one called trophyllastin. And again, it's just one of those things you put on your scar for days. You leave it on, I think between 5 and 7 days. And I take it off, and then it protects from the sun. You don't want to have UV rays, because if you have a scar that's exposed to the sun, then it's going to make it darker. So you want to protect that. But there is some mechanical pressure that's helping with the scar. And then the other thing is that you can check out is just lasers. There's pulsed dye lasers, there's fractional lasers, intense pulse light. There's a billion and one ways to do your lasers, but lasers are fabulous for scars. And that's just another thing that I've done. And of course, stay out of the sun. And if you use your sunscreen or cover it or use the tape, and all these things should help with your scars and the recovery.
Amazing. There's so much here. And, to some degree, we gave everybody a lot of homework. But I also think that, when you're in this place of preparing for these kinds of procedures, it's really helpful. Will you just reiterate again, because, you know, your experience was with hip replacement, but will you reiterate some of the other procedures where all of these things can be super helpful?
Yes. So because of my menopausal community, we have mastectomies, hysterectomies, facelifts, and then as we're aging, very common to have knee replacements, hip replacements. If you're younger, well, pregnancy scars, cesarean scars, falls, traumas, injuries, the list goes on and on. And all of this could be really, really great for all of these types of surgeries.
Yeah, and any kind of injury, you know, even if it's the tissue injury, right? So, and that I see a lot with people too. And how do I get better faster to get back to all the activities I love?
Yeah.
Zora, this has been amazing. A final thought, something to wrap this up?
A final thought is to make that, when you make that decision, it's a great opportunity because you can get really depressed. Like, oh, I got to fix my shoulder, or I've got to do whatever it is, a hysterectomy. Try to turn it around to a positive and say, this is a great time for me to work on my health and to focus on recovery and build a better person. And if you can get those habits in, they'll likely stick with you for life, and it's going to serve you for your future self. Because as a gerontologist, I'm not only concerned about our menopause and our experiences, we're traveling through this, but our future self. How are we going to be in our 70s and 80s and 90s? And if you want to live independently and you want to be strong, then we got to work on our health today. Don't wait for it to happen, because Alzheimer's and dementia and heart disease doesn't start in your 70s. It starts decades before, and that means pretty much right now.
Absolutely. It's never too late to start.
Yeah.
All right. It's time for our rapid fire off-topic questions. You ready?
Yep.
All right. What's the best thing you've done for your health this week? What's the naughtiest thing you've done related to your health this week?
Oh my goodness. The best thing I did for my health this week was spend time with my daughter on a rally as a co-pilot. Having a new experience. Novelty is so good for the brain. I think that was, and connection and bonding and spending time, I think that's one of the best hacks that at least for me and my health.
I love it.
And the most naughty one? I don't know. I would say, I know. Oh, yeah. Yes, very little sleep because I had to catch a plane at 6 a.m. and
I hear you.
That was, it was hard to control, but probably not so good, for my health, but we always can recover.
For sure. All right. If you weren't a gerontologist and founder of Hack My Age, what would you do?
What would I do? I would probably be an athlete, like a professional athlete, or a dancer. That's my thing. Professional athlete or a dancer. I'd probably be dancing all my life. I mean, my osteoarthritis really knocked me out. And that's one thing I'm really looking forward to, is going back to dance.
Nice. Favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise, or you could give us a fiction book.
Oh, wow. Favorite book. One that was kind of life-changing for me. Let's see. Oh my gosh, this is so hard. I'm much more of I listen to books nowadays.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm a listener for sure.
Well, oh gosh, this is really, really hard. What's that's out of because my problem is I'm always reading in my field now for the last decade or two. I don't really read so much out of my my space. So I have to think.
All right, give us the most recent book that you would recommend.
The most recent book. Well, I really liked Dr. Stacy Sims' Next Level. That was a pretty good. That was an eye opener for me. I learned so much from her. I think she's brilliant in what she does. So
yeah, she and I are very aligned.
Oh yeah, great. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Awesome. If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Aging. If you look at it as a sickness and a disease, which if you did, then I think we would have much more preventative medicine rather than accept that it's just normal. And in a way it is, but I think we need to have a little bit more balance here.
Yeah. If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
Oh, my superpower. Oh my goodness. Superhero could be my superpower is probably be able to make all my meals in 5 minutes.
I love that.
Yeah, all the shopping, all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the chopping, all the prepping, and done in 5 minutes. That would be an awesome superpower.
I'm with you on that one. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, mouth breathers. Oh, yeah.
I get it. All right, last one. In your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
The next frontier in wellness, there's probably 1,000,000,001. I would say, well, the next frontier, let's say menopause, right? I mean, let's
it's here.
Tackle that. And we need more research. We need more women in this research to be done, but especially about menopause and to understand more about what it's actually doing to the body.
Yeah. Well, Zora, thank you so much for being here. Tell everybody how to connect with you, where to learn more about Hack My Age and everything you do.
Oh, well, hackmyage.com. And then all the social media channels are Hack My Age. And if you can't remember that, remember Zora the Explorer instead of Dora, just Zora with a Z. And you'll probably find me there. And the podcast obviously is also called Hack My Age. Listen to that. And we also have a menopause quiz, free menopause quiz on hackmyage.com. You kind of want to know where you are in your menopause journey.
Awesome. And we'll put links to everything in the episode notes for everyone. Just thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciate your time, your expertise, and the way that you share everything to make some of these potentially more esoteric approaches really accessible. So thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, friends, on Friday in this week's bite-sized bonus episode Nutrition Nugget, we're talking about rutin. So it's a lesser-known nutrient, although maybe you've seen it as a supplement. I'm sure you are familiar with the foods that contain rutin. So we're going to talk about what it does, why it's particularly interesting, what foods to eat to get a little bit more into your system. So that's on Friday and this week's bite-sized bonus episode. Be sure wherever you're listening, click the plus sign or the follow button, and then your app will alert you when it goes live on Friday morning. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I am at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Pick your platform, send a message. My favorite thing is hearing from you, your ideas, your takeaways, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Zora Benhamou, thank you again for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So until next week, remember, aging is actually a gift, right? How we age is in our hands. And inevitably, there will be times for healing in life. And now you know that you can play a truly proactive role in that process too. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.